amendment, Senator Sampson.
Madam President. I rise in support of the amendment as well. Just to refresh memories for folks that are watching, we are debating a 4-part emergency certified bill, and we are on discussion about the third part of that bill, which has to do with funding for various special interest groups in the state of Connecticut. And I'm rising to support an amendment that was offered by my colleague, Senator Summers, that would replace the funding that is listed in the emergency certified bill with funding for the elderly nutrition program, as well as the LIHEAP, low-income heating assistance program. And I have a few comments, and then I'll have a few questions for the proponent of the bill as it pertains to the amendment with respect to how it differs from the underlying bill. I just want to start by saying that I concur with Senator Gordon's assessment, which is that we have constituents contacting us on a day-to-day basis, concerned about their ability to afford to feed their families. I have seniors in my district who have contacted me with every concern financially that you can think of. I got folks that are worried whether or not in the fall, whether or not their boiler was going to kick on, and having to pay to take care of that, or having their leaves taken out of their gutters. But now it's actually gotten substantially worse. Now we have folks contacting our office suggesting that they've got to make decisions between paying their light bill and buying groceries. That is what's a true emergency in the state of Connecticut. This is the thing that is affecting people far and wide. And it's not just the poorest of the poor, and it's not just senior citizens. It is a great number of people who are struggling in our state. And to see this bill come before us today, I've already spoken about the nature of it being an emergency certified bill. But this section of the bill that has to do with effectively handing out taxpayer dollars to various special interests should give everyone pause. This is not a full budget by any stretch of the imagination. This is just a small portion of what our state might budget for how it spends the taxpayers' dollars. But in essence, everything that we do when it comes to our spending is part of a budget, because it has to be factored in with all the other things that are spent. And it's been said many, many times in the past that when we come to debate budgets and spending in a bill such as this, whether or not that is a priority, whether or not that is the type of thing we should be spending our money on. And we always discuss that a budget is a moral document. A budget is very telling to the priorities of the administration, etc. Well, this is very telling too. This document that is before us tells us how the majority wants to spend money. They don't want to spend money to pay down the public benefits charge for electricity bills to help the people that are in need. And they're not looking to do what we are in our amendment, which is to help people that are having trouble feeding themselves because they are genuinely poor. Instead, it's money going to what I would consider far-left advocacy organizations, primarily, in this particular case, focused on abortion in the case of Planned Parenthood, illegal immigration in the case of many others, and even gender reassignment surgery and gender-affirming care in the case of many of the others. I was out of the room for a minute. I think I heard Senator Summers go through and list the names of some of these organizations that are included in the bill. And I'm just going to go through it again because I think it's worthwhile discussing how the majority thinks the taxpayers' money in the state of Connecticut should be spent. The very same taxpayers that are having difficulty paying their electric bills, affording the taxes that are going up across the board, particularly property taxes as a result of the cost of everything going up, including the valuation of people's homes. I'm witnessing this firsthand. I'm in the real estate industry, and I watch my clients dealing with this. There are people being priced out of their homes, people that bought their homes for an amount which is surprisingly close 30, 40, 50 years later to what their annual property tax bill is. You contrast that with what's going on in Florida. I saw just yesterday, Governor DeSantis is trying to find a way to eliminate property taxes in Florida. These are the conversations I wish we were having here. I wish we were discussing how we're going to get rid of property taxes so that people across Connecticut can live more prosperous lives. That's the goal of what we do here. Find a way to make our constituents more prosperous. Set up a system that is fair, it is equitable, that provides for opportunity to achieve and prosper. That's what the force of government can be for good, not for deciding how taxpayers' money should be funneled to various entities for political purposes. This, I said I was going to list these organizations, so I will. And I'm going to start with Planned Parenthood, but I'm going to come back to that at the end because I think that is where the lion's share of this money is going. Out of the $2.887 million that is being expended in this budget document, a good portion of it, 800,000 of it, is going directly to Planned Parenthood. The other
Senator Sampson, would you like to perhaps summarize and not read from the text? I think that would be better and in keeping with our rules.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, but I haven't read a single thing from the text of the bill.
All right, go ahead, sir.
I'm speaking from the heart. I have a document with a list of these names. Would it be an objection to list the items that are being spent on as far as this expenditure through you, Madam President?
Senator Duff.
Thank you, Madam President. We'll stand at ease for a moment.
We'll stand at ease, sir. Senator Duff.
Thank you, Madam President. Just to remind the body that in Mason's 112 cannot read even if it is the bill. So we would ask either summarize or do it from the heart or however, but you're not. The rules of the chamber, because we follow Mason's, say that you cannot read the bill or read anything else to help in the debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Duff. Senator Sampson, please proceed, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I will just reiterate for the benefit of the chamber and anyone watching. I've spoken hundreds of times in this chamber, and I have never read anything off a document for the purpose of giving my remarks, including today. I've been speaking from the heart about my concerns about the bill. I am simply suggesting that I would like to list the items that are being enumerated as receiving state taxpayer funds in the bill that is before us. And I really would like a clear answer whether I'm allowed to do that or not. And I would just add to that question, the reason why I want to do it is because, as has been pointed out numerous times today, none of this ever got a public hearing. No one has ever had the opportunity to even hear what these items are. The people that are watching at home have no idea. Through you.
Senator, this is your opportunity to be commenting on the amendment. Senator Duff.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I believe Senator Sampson had the floor. I yield to him.
Yes, indeed. Senator Sampson, please proceed, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Just picking up where we left off, I was trying to point out the difference in priorities between the majority and the Republican minority. Our amendment is all about prioritizing the people that are suffering in the state of Connecticut, people that can't afford to pay their electric bills, people that are having to decide between purchasing groceries and paying their light bill. And I just found it fascinating that the things that ended up in today's emergency certified bill are not things that people across Connecticut would consider to be priorities. These apparently are priorities, however, for the majority party. And I want to list those items right from the bill as an illustration of the things that they are prioritizing. There is an objection to me reading those items out of the bill. I don't know that there's another way to do it, so I'm going to try and just ask a question about each one. So, Madam President, through you, I'd like to ask the proponent of the bill just to give me a brief understanding of what each of these organizations is and what they do. The first one on the list is the Connecticut Institute for Refugees and Immigrants, and they are supposed to receive $62,500 via the bill that is before us. Through you.
Thank you, Senator Austin.
Can we stand at ease for a moment?
We can stand at ease. Senator Duff.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I yield to Senator Austin to answer the question.
Senator Austin.
Thank you very much, Madam President. The first item that you talked about is the Connecticut Institute for Refugees and Immigrants. I'm not intimately knowledgeable about this particular organization, but I am on one of the other ones which does similar work with the Integrated Refugee and Immigrant Services Incorporated. They're similar to each other, and what they do is they help refugees that come in. I akin it to the Afghan refugees who came in and the Ukrainian refugees, where they assist them in housing, getting a job, ELL or English language learning classes, and things along those lines. Through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much for that answer, Madam President. And again, I am here trying to compare what is in the bill that's been proposed versus our amendment as a question of what priorities we should have as a legislative body. I would point out that it was shared with me a story that was in the Connecticut Sentinel, February 20th, a news publication, who said that it's worth noting that CERI, the same organization that we're referring to, which, as Senator Austin noted, is very interested in providing benefits and help to immigrants and refugees, which I think is noteworthy and laudable, except for the fact that I think that they're also interested in helping the undocumented population. And in fact, in that Sentinel article, they point out that it's worth noting that this organization is one of those organizations delivering know your rights lessons in case police or ICE show up at the front door or confront a person on the street. So just pointing out the difference in what our priorities are. I'm suggesting that we should be supporting the amendment before us to help people that are actually in need because they are facing extreme poverty, people that can't afford to feed themselves or pay their electric bills. And in contrast, we're giving money from those same taxpayers to benefit organizations that put undocumented persons ahead of Connecticut citizens. The Jewish Family Services of Greenwich is on the list. All of these items, by the way, get $62,500. The Connecticut Immigrant and Refugee Coalition, Inc. is next. Center for Children's Advocacy. Anchor Health Initiative Corp. And then Middlesex Hospital, which I'm going to just bring up for a moment. I have some documentation about Middlesex Hospital. Do you know that Middlesex Hospital advertises on their website that they provide gender transition surgery? It's right on their website. You could go there right now. They have an entire department dedicated to things like that. And not just hormone therapy, which they highlight, but also gender transition surgery, where they say our surgical specialists bring expertise, experience, and compassion to a host of feminizing and masculinizing surgical procedures for our transgender patients. This is where the majority thinks that that money should go. I disagree. I think it should go towards the items enumerated in our amendment. Again, people that are truly suffering. Triangle Community Center. the Queer Youth Program of Connecticut, Kids in Crisis, Inc., Out CT, Inc., the Bridgeport Pride Center, P-Flag Enfield, Inc., Peer Pride, Inc., the World Health Clinicians, Inc. There are a number of these. They're all at $62,500. Social and environmental entrepreneurs, Upper Albany Neighborhood Collaborative, City Seed, Building One Community Corp, Havenly, Inc. I'm almost done. The Hartford Gay and Lesbian Health Collective, the New Haven Gay and Lesbian Community Center, Integrated Refugee and Immigrant Services, and Junta for Progressive Action. That's the whole list. Now, I don't have any objection to any of these organizations. They are certainly welcome to exist and practice whatever their desires are, and I support some of their initiatives. The difference is, should we be spending taxpayer money on these things? Is that a priority for Connecticut? And more importantly, for today, when a lot of our conversation has been about what is an emergency, what is a true emergency for the state of Connecticut? I don't see these things as an emergency. We talked about Middlesex for a second. Let me talk about item number 32, which is Integrated Refugee and Immigrant Services. This is an organization that has been up at the Capitol many, many times supporting Husky for Immigrants. Through you, Madam President, can you, through you to the proponent of the bill, again, relative to our amendment, where we know what LIHEAP does and we know what Meals for Wheels is, can the good chairman of the Appropriations Committee tell us what this IRIS organization in line T32 is going to spend their $225,000 on? Through you.
Thank you, Senator Austin.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And Madam President, IRIS is a group that handles refugee and immigrant services, much akin to the Connecticut Institute for Refugees and Immigrants and the Connecticut Immigrant and Refugee Coalition Incorporated. And the work that they do houses people that come to our country legally. They come as refugees from war-torn areas. And I spoke in favor of supporting our Afghan people coming to this country because their country was in disarray, and they stood by our American veterans. They stood by our American military. They acted as interpreters for our American military and were under direct attack. Ukraine, under direct attack by Russia. Whether people like Russia or they don't like Russia, I don't really care. The fact is that Ukraine is under direct attack by Russia. I have my own opinion on Russia. It has to do with my history. So they and China belong in an area that I don't even want to begin, but I want to welcome those people here and provide them. Now, refugees are people who come here legally. Immigrants are people who come here legally. Most of my farms need people that are immigrants to do the work of those farms. They come here legally. And what they want to do is they want to learn English. And this helps them learn English. They need a place to stay until they get a job. That's what they want to do. On Saturday, I was at a Norwich refugee resettlement group where we were raising money for the next refugee family to come here, again, legally. And we were raising $20,000. Now these dollars here will help them settle those people in the way that we would like them to settle. Give them an opportunity to learn the language, get them a job, help them settle into a community. Make sure they have pots and pans and kitchen utensils. Make sure that they have a kitchen table. Make sure that they have a couch. That's what these dollars are for, is to settle people into a unit that they can start rebuilding their lives. Quite frankly, some of them don't want to be here. They're here because their country is torn apart. So, is this an emergency or not? I think there are a lot of emergencies going on today. And I keep many of my comments to myself on these issues. But today, these people who come here because they helped our military as interpreters in other countries, because their country is war-torn, because we need help on our farms and group homes and nursing homes, and we need people to come from other countries because we have only 80,000 jobs in Connecticut that we can't fill with the lowest unemployment in forever. We need people to come here. I'm going to welcome those people to come here, and I'm going to make sure that they can get jobs here and become tax-paying citizens themselves, because that's what they are becoming, tax-paying citizens themselves. And that's what we want. We want them to be taxpayers. And that's where we are moving towards today. Through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Austin. Senator Sampson.
Thank you, Madam President. I appreciate the gentlelady trying to redirect the conversation to people that are in the country lawfully attempting to seek asylum or refugee status, but that's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to an article that appeared in the CT Sentinel on January 27th, which pointed out that IRIS provides services for refugee and immigrants, including illegals, and they provide legal services, including deportation defense, and they even have a organization within IRIS called SUN, Services for Undocumented Neighbors. So through you, Madam President, can the good chairman of the Appropriations Committee assure me that not one single dollar of the $225,000 that we are going to award this organization in this bill is not going to be used for illegal immigration? Through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Austin.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Senator Sampson.
Thank you, Madam President. I understood your comments to be in very much favor of lawful refugees and asylum seekers, and I share that same sentiment with you, Madam Chairman, completely, 100%. My question is about the priorities of this body and the majority party putting this item on this in this bill to award this organization $225,000, and I pointed out that maybe they do some of the good work that you mentioned, but they also do provide services for illegal aliens, including deportation defense, and they have an organization within IRIS called SUN, Services for Undocumented Neighbors. That would lead me to believe that they also spend their resources on helping undocumented or illegal aliens. What my question was is very clearly, can you guarantee this body and the people of Connecticut that if we award them $225,000 in this bill, that none of that money will go towards illegal immigration and only towards refugees for the reasons that you described? Through you, Madam President.
Senator Austin.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Trying to keep my comments as brief as possible. Many of the people that are here legally are having their status challenged and changed after they have gotten here. So it's hard to say that they're not going to be under the current administration being considered undocumented when they are not. Through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you, Madam President. I don't believe that the President of the United States decides who's undocumented or not. We have federal immigration law supreme to the state of Connecticut. Despite the disagreement of the majority party here, the federal government does determine who's lawfully in the country and who does not. That doesn't have anything to do with my question, though. My question was, can we guarantee that none of this $225,000 will be used for benefiting illegal immigration? Through you.
I believe this
Austin.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I'm sorry. I believe that this is for refugees and immigrants.
Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I appreciate the answer. It's not as conclusive as I'd like it to be, but I'll accept that as an answer. Can I ask, as a follow-up to that, through you, Madam President, how are we going to determine how these organizations that I enumerated are going to spend their money. This is just like our budget. When we draft a budget, we have a budget that has a bunch of line items, but there's always an implementer bill that goes with it, that is the policy behind the line items that says how it's to be used. Where is the implementation language? We're just giving money and a check, $225,000 to this organization. What will dictate how they spend that money? Through you, Madam President.
Senator Austin.
Thank you very much, Madam President. A contract with the Judicial Department for these respective expenses.
Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. So I did notice that under this section of the bill, it says that it's the Judicial Department that will be engaged in the contract writing. Who is guiding the Judicial Department on what to put in these contracts? Through you.
Senator Sampson, would like to point out that we are debating the amendment, not the underlying bill. So I'd love it if we could just focus on the amendment that is before the chamber.
Thank you, Madam President. I am indeed focusing on the amendment. This amendment is a debate over whether or not we should spend money on the organizations that I listed versus the organizations in the amendment, which is the Low-Income Heating Assistance Program and Meals on Wheels, in effect. Poor people, for lack of a better term, in the state of Connecticut, people truly in need, versus all of these far-left organizations that are promoting illegal immigration, gender reassignment surgery, and so on. And I'm trying to illustrate that there's real concerns about where this money is going. If we heard that this money is actually going to go to people that are in the country lawfully as documented immigrants and they're truly in need, I might reconsider my position. But I'm not hearing that. And I would like to know how we know this money is going to be spent on them and not to promote illegal immigration. So it is definitely relevant in my view, Madam President.
Thank you. Was that a question to Senator Austin?
I did ask a question to Senator Austin, which was, how does the Judiciary Department determine what to put in these contracts? Who's guiding them? Is it OPM guiding them? Is it the appropriations chair? Is it the majority leadership? Who's determining what the Judiciary Department puts in these contracts to determine how that money is spent by these organizations? Through you.
Senator Austin.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And through you, the Judicial Department is well versed on contracts and the confines of what those contracts are going to contain. It's not done by the legislature, so it wouldn't be done by any chair of any committee, nor would it be done by anybody that's an elected official in the legislature. And it would not be, I really actually quite forgot what his other, OPM. OPM is a different branch of government, and the Judicial Department would be handling this. Through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Well, I appreciate that answer, but I have to tell you it's unbelievably concerning. We're writing blank checks. We're writing blank checks here to all of these organizations, which are activist organizations that engage mostly in issues advocacy. So I'm confused. I mean, we're going to just let the Judicial Department determine what they put in their contract, dictating how they can spend the money without any oversight? I mean, we don't do that for any other money that the state gives out. We always have a policy that goes with the line item in the budget. If we have money going to the Department of Agriculture, it says what that money's for. It's for personnel and benefits, and it's for this program or that program. We don't just write a check. So with respect to my earlier question, which was, can we guarantee this money's not going for purposes that are in direct defiance of the federal government, putting our federal benefits and people in the state at risk? You said yes, we can be sure of that, but I don't know how. If you're not overseeing the Judicial Department and OPM is not, the Judicial Department will simply get to do it on their own, based on their own political views. Is that correct? Through you, Madam Chairman? President, rather?
Senator Austin.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Madam President, the Judicial Department does not write contracts based on their political bent. I don't even know what their political bent is. And every contract that is written by the Judicial Department, is then reviewed by the Attorney General. Through you, Madam President.
Thank you. Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I missed the answer because I was having a sidebar, and I apologize. Can I have the answer again?
Senator Austin.
Thank you. I'll try to regurgitate what I just said. The Judicial Department writes its contracts, and then the contracts are then overseen by, again reviewed by the Attorney General. I do not know the Judicial Department's political bent. I don't know that they have one. And that would be through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll just a final question on this thing. So I'm surprised to hear that the Attorney General is the final arbiter of what should appear in these contracts. I'm curious to know what authority he has to determine how the taxpayers' money is spent. I thought that was the purview of the legislative body. I thought it was the purview of the Appropriations Committee. I thought that the chair of the Appropriations Committee would be very concerned about how this money is spent and want to dictate exactly how these organizations are to spend it. But what I'm hearing is that these organizations are going to be given effectively blank checks, and that the Judicial Department will write the contract determining how they can spend their money with no direction that I can surmise from any of our conversation, and that the Attorney General will ultimately approve it. That does not sound like the people of Connecticut are going to be represented in that discussion. Can I just ask a final question about this? And again, this all goes back to our amendment. The amendment is about comparing what we should spend our money on. Should we spend it on Meals on Wheels and low-income heating assistance, or should we spend it on this stuff? These organizations with the spending. So I guess the question is just really, we don't know how it's going to be spent. That's quite clear. Will it ever become public? Will these contracts be available in a few weeks or so after this money is awarded, so that the people of Connecticut can look back and see how their money was spent? Through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Austin.
Thank you very much, Madam President. The legislature does not review contracts, not ever. We get to look at them like anybody else can look at a contract, but we don't review those contracts. And the Attorney General reviews every single contract that is approved by the legislature as the final arbiter of those contracts. Through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam President. I appreciate that answer. It doesn't go to the, I mean, I understand the process. The point of my question was, we're entrusting the Judicial Department and the Attorney General, who ultimately signs off on it, to make the policy, because we have not stipulated a policy, and that's our job. When we create an appropriation, it has to come with policy. You just don't award Rob Sampson $225,000, and you just don't award this organization $225,000 without saying what it's for. You have to put policy behind it. Otherwise, there's no guarantee of how it will be spent, or whether it will be spent in the best interests of the citizens of Connecticut. And I'm shocked that this body is willing to advance a bill with emergency certification without a public hearing, where all this, by the way, would have been discussed. I'm trying to do the job of the whole public hearing right now, to get this in the air, to discuss the shortcomings of the bill that is before us. I'm flabbergasted, to be honest with you, Madam President, that this is the way this is being done. I have just one more thing to say before we go to the amendment.
Thank you, Senator Duff.
Thank you, Madam President. Stand at ease, please.
We will stand at ease. Senator Duff.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to yield to Senator Sampson.
Senator Sampson.
Thank you again, Madam President. Yeah, so we covered all of those line items but one. The one that I left for the end was to just discuss the amount that is going to be reserved for Planned Parenthood, which is $800,000. And look, I know Planned Parenthood is a controversial organization. Certainly there are people on all sides of the abortion debate that make an issue of what they do. And I don't doubt that they perform a lot of other services that are certainly beneficial to society. But I have a few questions about this particular money, this $800,000, and how it's going to be spent. Through you, Madam President, again to the Chairman of the Appropriations Committee, and again to illustrate priority versus priority, can we determine how this $800,000 will be spent by Planned Parenthood? Is it the same mechanism? The Judiciary Department will write the contract and then the Attorney General will sign it, and we have no policy to govern how that money will be used through you?
Senator Austin.
Thank you very much. This is through the Department of Public Health for Community Health Services.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I didn't hear any policy in there that dictates how they're going to use their money. Would Planned Parenthood, by virtue of this contract with the Judiciary Department, be prohibited from spending that money to facilitate abortion services? Would they be prohibited for using it for issues advocacy, for example? Through you.
Senator Austin.
Thank you. This through the Department of Public Health for Community Health Services would be related to community health services, reproductive health issues, checking people for cancer, UTIs, a number of other normal activities that happen within the confines generally of women, but not just women. Also men use Planned Parenthood for health services. So this would be community health services in and of itself. And we are barred from both state law and federal law from spending taxpayer dollars on abortions. Through you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. This has been a trying debate for all the parties concerned, so I won't press the issue, but I will point out that there was no clear answer that I heard that said that this money will not be used for things like issues advocacy. The fact of the matter is that money is fungible. If you give $800,000 to an organization such as Planned Parenthood, that certainly could be shifted to whatever services, allowing them to use more of the money they were going to use for those services for other things. Can I ask through you, Madam President, with respect to our priorities and how we're going to spend this money versus the amendment, is Planned Parenthood really facing an emergency? Can the good chairman tell me, like, for instance, what the net assets are of Planned Parenthood or what their endowment figures might be through you?
Senator Austin.
Thank you, Madam President. No.
Senator Sampson.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Well, I can. I looked it up. And it turns out that the Planned Parenthood's 22-23 annual report, which you can get right on their website, indicates that they have net assets exceeding $2.5 billion. That's billion with a B. Billions of dollars. A billion is 1,000 millions. That is an unbelievable amount of money. Our state budget, that's 10% of our state budget. Can you imagine an organization that has this kind of assets? Their endowment fund is $47 million. I don't believe they're in need of money from the state of Connecticut. And I'll go back to what I started this conversation with earlier today, back around noontime, which is that this, as the good Senate Republican leader stated, is a political emergency for the majority. It is not an emergency for the recipients of this money. They are trying to make sure that their base is reminded that they are still with them and they're supporting them, regardless of whether they need that money or not. I'm completely flabbergasted, to be honest with you, that this bill would contain $800,000 for an organization that is so rife with money when we have people that can't afford to pay their bills, can't afford to keep their light bill on, and can't afford to feed themselves in the state of Connecticut. It's a disgrace. It's as simple as I can put it. Madam President, I wholeheartedly support the amendment that is before us that would, instead of funding these 20 or 30 organizations focused on illegal immigration, focused on gender surgery, focused on abortion, focused on issue advocacy for the most far left of causes, instead of spending the money on that, we spend Connecticut's taxpayer money on helping people through the Meals on Wheels program, which goes to seniors, which helps thousands and thousands of people across Connecticut actually not go hungry. And for the LIHEAP program, which is low income heating assistance, so we make sure that people can afford to heat their homes in one of the coldest winters we've had in a long time. I encourage my colleagues to look into their hearts and look at this bill and decide what our priorities really are. Should we be promoting political causes, or should we be helping the people of Connecticut? Thank you, Madam President.